Over the past month, people have been going absolutely crazy for the recent release of a beloved anime onto the popular streaming platform Netflix. This show follows the story of a young boy who is forced to fight against an army of giant adversaries who wreak all sorts of terror and havoc upon their post-apocalyptic world. This boy's name is Shinji, and he's the only one who can pilot a special mech to take on this alien threat. This is Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Wait, what do you mean we're not talking about Eva? That's what everyone is obsessed with right now. Come on, if I want to get views, I need to be topical. What other giant robot show that's on Netflix? Isn't that Voltron? What the hell is Gurren Lagann?
Gurren Lagann, otherwise known as Tengen-toppa Gurren Lagann in Japan, was animated by Studio Gainax and directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi, who later went on to found Studio Trigger along with Masahiko Otsuka, who also contributed a great deal to the production of Gurren Lagann. Trigger has since gone on to create many original works, such as Kill la Kill, Kiznaiver, and Darling in the Franxx, but none of them really left as much of a lasting impact on me compared to this series. So with all of this revitalized giant robot hype that's come from Eva lately, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about Gurren Lagann, as it was not only the show that kickstarted my anime addiction back in high school, but I found that the more and more that I look back on this show, there's something that I didn't quite catch before. Our story starts out in an underground village known as Jiha. It is in this village that they dig tunnels to expand their civilization so that they can... Wait a second, this isn't Gurren Lagann, this is Lion King 1.5. Okay, hold on, just give me a sec. Kidding me. Producer, they said. It'll make your life easier, they said. Where is it? I swear I just... Oh, wait. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, I found it. Found it. We're all good. In Jiha Village, we are introduced to Simon, a young boy who seems to be a bit of a savant when it comes to using a drill. And while he is useful, he is considered to be a bit of an outcast by the rest of the village. His only real friend is a loudmouth teenager named Kamina, who is less of an outcast and more so that kid that we all knew in elementary school. You know, the teacher would move him to a desk in the corner of the room so they wouldn't distract anyone. Yup, that's our boy Kamina. Even though they are polar opposites in terms of personality, they have a very tight relationship, as shown through Simon constantly referring to Kamina as bro. This is only natural, however, as both of these boys don't have families to turn to for support. Simon looks up to Kamina, which is why even though he's scared of the possible consequences from going against the established rules of their society, he still gets himself involved in Kamina's rebellious schemes. This is shown through them trying to break through the ceiling of Jiha to the surface, which, judging by how the village chief easily stops them, it definitely wasn't their first attempt. But what exactly is on the surface that has sent humans to live underground? Nobody in Jiha really knows, and frankly, they don't care to find out. They see it as a threat to their safety, that it's better to stay where they are and expand downward, establish more roots if you will. But Kamina views this ceiling of protection as an obstacle to break through, a mere doorway into the land of infinite opportunity. Oh my god, I think we're about to get into some symbolism shit. Now I view this as a very common trend in society, specifically in very low populated areas of the world. Everyone has a role to play, but when the scope of an individual village or town is just so small in comparison to the rest of the world, we are told to learn the traditionally established work roles that help the entire group function and survive. If you want to be of use to everyone else, you must become another cog in the machine. And when one cog stops working, you simply replace it with another to keep the machine running smoothly. And there isn't anything wrong with that per se, but not everyone is meant for that kind of life. Some aspire for more in the short time that they have on this planet. Unfortunately though, many of those people get put down and called selfish if they wish for something greater than the current life that they are familiar with. Simon is valued by the village leader for his skills as a digger, being treated with much more kindness than his big bro. But Simon is seen as nothing more than an asset, as opposed to a human being with emotions. But not to Kamina, which is why Simon cares so deeply for him. Kamina is a beacon of hope to Simon, as he treats his little bro as an equal, even despite Simon's clear lack of self-confidence. Each of them hold the other on a pedestal in their mind, guiding each other along and compensating for the qualities that the other lacks. Simon is the brain, whereas Kamina is the muscle. This is reflected later on as well, once they both acquire their mechs, Gurren and Lagann, which combine to form the titular mech with two faces. Gurren Lagann! Fight the power! It's a codependent relationship that allows them to burst through the literal ceiling that society has established for them. And now that they have reached the other side, it's time for them to embark on a grand adventure into the exciting unknown. As Simon and Kamina progress through their journey on the surface, it doesn't take long for them to start forming alliances with other humans. They learn of an ongoing war between humans and strange creatures known as beastmen, who are faithful to only one person, the Spiral King. We later learn that the Spiral King, also known as Lord Genome, is not only a human as well, but he is the one responsible for driving the humans underground in the first place. He is a man that has become drunk on his own power, feeding lies to his troops that humans are biologically inferior to beastmen, which is a belief that has been passed along to and even accepted by the human rebellion. Initially, these new characters view Kamina as possibly the stupidest person to ever exist. His confidence is undeserved, he attempts to take charge almost immediately, and he also just decides out of nowhere that he's going to steal and pilot one of the gunmen that they fight. No human has ever attempted this, as the mere thought of it clashes with their pre-established beliefs. He gets called an idiot by almost everyone, but that doesn't stop him from spouting a few one-liners about how it'll work, purely based on the fact that he's just that fucking awesome. Honestly, you could probably make an entire TED Talk just from randomly throwing in all of his motivational one-liners over the course of the series.
Don't believe in yourself. Believe in me. Believe in the Kamina who believes in you.
Sure enough, the mad lad actually pulls this stunt off, proving all of the naysayers wrong in the process. But this achievement does a whole lot more than just help them win the fight. As mentioned previously, everybody in the rebellion, as well as the beastmen, all thought that humans were incapable of piloting a gunman. However, Kamina has single-handedly proven that through pure determination, this seemingly impossible feat is actually possible. His actions result in a chain effect, inspiring other characters in the show to take the same crazy action that he did, which in turn greatly increases their chances of securing a victory against the Spiral King. Even in real life, charisma can be a very powerful weapon. Many of us wish that we could have more of it, while others seem to naturally exude it. People naturally flock to and wish to emulate those who possess this admirable quality, and we see this idea at work through Kamina's character. An entire resistance is formed with him being the heart and soul of it all, and that's all because he constantly had faith that his inner strength would allow him to win the battle, and it's because of his strength that the rest of the team begins to realize their own individual potential. But then, something happens.
That day, we lost something that could never be replaced.
The first time I watched this show, back when I was just an awkward high schooler who, in retrospect, knew very little about the random cruelty of the world, I was shocked after I witnessed Kamina's death. Even though he was just a character that didn't even make it 10 episodes into the series, he was portrayed in the way that many anime protagonists are. He felt like he was above death somehow, invincible. I didn't see it coming, I didn't believe it after it happened, and all I wanted was for things to go back to the way that they were before he was killed off. As I already mentioned, this series has had a lasting impact on me ever since I first watched it. What I initially set out to discuss in this video essay was how Gurren Lagann has been a constantly reliable source of motivation to me over the years. Whenever I would have a bad day or needed a little extra encouragement, I'd go back and watch some of my favorite episodes to help inspire me, to remind myself of the limitless potential that I possess as a human being. But this time around, as I watched Simone and the rest of the cast process the loss of their symbol of hope, the person who they had convinced themselves was invincible, it brought up some tough memories. In 2016, I lost one of my best friends in a car accident. And while she wasn't anywhere close to sharing the same personality as Kamina, she was definitely one of the biggest sources of both positivity and hope in my life. The pain that I felt immediately after learning of her passing was nothing like which I had ever felt before. So to rewatch Gurren Lagann today and to witness the parallels of my real-world pain through these characters, it was chilling. Nothing can prepare you for the utter pain of losing someone you love. It's different for everyone. Some people put on a brave face in the company of others, while choosing to grieve in private. Others will become more angry and frustrated, maybe even using the death of that person as an excuse to lash out at friends or family. And then there are those of us who just shut down. But all of these reactions are simply coping mechanisms that we turn to in order to combat the difficult emotions that we are experiencing. There isn't any cut and dry way to process the emotional gut punch that is grief. And the episodes that portray the team all coming to grips with Kamina's death seem so uncomfortably realistic to me. Death is a touchy subject for almost everyone. Writing this script has left me struggling to come up with the right words to properly convey not just my feeling in regards to the theme of death and its overall purpose in Gurren Lagann, but how it has personally affected my life as a whole. It can leave us all questioning our very own mortality, along with all of the major choices that have led us to where we are today. And those feelings are amplified significantly if the person that we were close to didn't get to experience the full life that they deserved. But I learned a valuable lesson through the death of my friend. One that is very similar to the lesson that Simone learns as well. That in a way, death doesn't mean that that person and the life that they lived has been completely erased. As much as we wish to bring back those who we have lost, the death of that individual doesn't take away the lessons that they taught us or how they impacted our lives, which is why their spirit continues to live on through us. And when the pain begins to subside, and you can slowly start to tap back into those good memories that you created together, it somehow provides you a brand new perspective on how you live your own life. When it comes to accepting the death of a loved one, I think Simone says it best here.
My bro is dead. He's gone. But he's right there on my back and here in my heart. He lives on as a part of me.
And I feel like that's the point I've been working towards. Our loved ones live on as a part of us, and it is through us that they continue to affect our lives, even if they aren't physically here. They can help us realize that we can soar to new heights and change the world for the better. And that's exactly what Simone and the rest of Team Gurren do, as they not only fulfill their original mission that they set out to do, but through their combined cooperation, they go on to establish an entire city on the surface, where both humans and beastmen are learning to coexist with one another. Of course, a new threat eventually arises, resulting in a classic getting the band back together type of scenario. But even despite how much each character has changed over the years, each of them have fostered their individual strengths, realizing that they all bring something unique and important to the table. They are no longer humans that live their lives in fear below the Earth's surface, because now they are a legitimate force to be reckoned with. A force that is willing to punch fear right in its ugly face. And this leads to one of the most hype anime finales that to this day still manages to leave me feeling hopeful about the future ahead of me. Even if not everyone gets to see my journey through to the end, I can at least do my best to make them proud. And when it comes to all of the people who will try to put me down along the way, I can just say this to them. Just who the hell do you think I am? Fight the power! I think that line works better when you're in a giant robot fight and not a job interview.